Hello, Schmoville. Well, if you are subscribed to this very here channel, the Schmoes Know Podcast YouTube channel, first of all, thank you very much. Glad that the fans of the podcast have made their way over to the YouTube channel. This is let's say it's our Netflix for podcast episodes. If you just started listening to the show maybe recently or even a year ago and you wanted to catch how it all began or some past archives, well, they're all going to be here. It's going to take a little bit, but we're going to try to get as many of them. We're going to try to get all of them up there. We will get all of them up there. But anyway, this one right here, this is the episode 5, and that has Mark Reilly's first appearance. If you are a podcast fan or even a schmoesknow.com fan, then you should be familiar with Mark, a.k.a. Yodi Reilly. He was a writer on the website when the website was really just kind of just there. We weren't really doing anything with it, and Reilly was just one of the first guys to help us with it. But he was also, as you know or may not know, he is a super Xmen fan. So Xmen First Class had just come out. And we decided, let's talk X-Men movies. So we brought Reilly in. We had a long discussion about the X-Men movies and the future of them and all that type of stuff. And we bashed the Wolverine Origins for a little bit. So the sound is terrible. It didn't really improve until Katie Levine came on. And that was a few more episodes. And I'll announce that when it happens. But that's it. That's what this one's all about. And you want to catch up on the old archives, this is how you do it. So enjoy the X-Men discussion with Mark Reilly. Thanks, guys.
All right, so we are back. Yes, we haven't killed one another, which I can't believe. And of course, this is the Schmoes Know Podcast. I am Christian Harloff.
Hey, kids. Mark Ellis, also better known as the Little Chimp.
That's right, the Little Chimp is here. And of course, we wouldn't be able to do this each and every week without our good buddy, Cheese.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Shizer.
Good to be here.
Good, man. How are you?
I'm very well.
Banged up eye over there.
Yeah, I got, what probably should be 3 to 4 stitches, but I opted for the the glue and the little bandages here.
That's some Civil War frontier medicine, right?
It is.
I don't know if they had rec basketball leagues back in the 1800s, but that's how they would have patched it
But
up.
did I play the second half? I did.
Yeah, you did.
I actually think it happened because he was one of the few people who didn't get reserved seating at X-Men and was trampled.
Well, that happened too.
Yeah,
but that's
now, of course, that's going to segue us into we are doing this entire podcast will be all about the X-Men, everything related to X-Men, the comics, the X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men 3,
the Wolverine movie.
That's right.
And then X-Men First Class.
Yeah,
so that's it. All X-Men podcast, and then we'll give you tips on how to talk to girls.
Yes, and of course we're going to be doing that with a friend of ours, a guest. And if you're familiar with the Schmoes Know website, and if you're not, then please leave us alone.
What's that website, Christian?
That's www.schmoesknow.com. www.schmoesknow.com.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so, and one of our writers, every Thursday, you can find it on Schmoes Know, and that is the Reilly Roundtable. Of course, I am sitting with screenwriter, good friend, Mark Reilly. How are you, Mark?
Hey, good morning. Hello. God, I fell asleep there for a minute with all your wonderful banter.
You know what? If you're falling asleep actually live in the studio, it doesn't bode well for
an honest man.
Yeah, it's the most honest guest we have so far. Thanks a lot, guys. While you guys were actually talking, I was nodding off. I was thinking about Jennifer Lawrence.
I call it like I see it. Well, Jennifer Lawrence, yeah.
That's right.
She is good.
So we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Mark is let's see, this is going to be confusing here. So we're just...
Call me Reilly.
No, just for today. All right, I'll go, you want to go a little chimp?
I think I'm going to go with Ellis for the rest of
that's
this
fine.
Ellis, okay.
We'll go Ellis, and then we'll say Mr. Reilly. All right, so Mr. Reilly.
I like
Mr. Reilly.
My father.
Now, the thing is, he's a huge comic book fan. He he and Ellis saw Thor together, and I think Ellis was just amazed by his geekdom.
It was really like having an offensive coordinator in the theater, and again,
right.
not that we were talking during the movie because you're not allowed to do that. It's against the government rules. But I think that when you see somebody who knows that much about the Avengers and you get to see Thor, it really does open a new kind of window of enjoyment for you. And then afterwards, I could ask him questions. It was like right there. And maybe you had the same experience with X-Men. I think anytime you see a comic book movie, if you see it with Reilly, you enjoy it that much more.
I think so, because this whole today's podcast kind of came out of left field because we were so excited about the new X-Men movie, X-Men First Class, and Reilly and I saw it together, and we were just blown away by it. So let's get into it. Reilly, now you've been an X-Men fan for a long time, the comics and whatever.
Yeah. I know more about like the Avengers, but
That doesn't help. We're not doing an Avengers.
No. But I have to. That's just my. I have to say that first, so I don't.
Aliens kidnap
so all
us
the people,
and they give you one topic, then we'll go Avengers. But
well, I don't want all the fans to go. Well, he doesn't know X-Men as well as he says he does. So, yeah, but I am a huge fan of the X-Men, and especially the Ultimate X-Men, and yeah, that's. Yeah, keep talking.
Okay.
What else?
All right. Good. All right. So there's a reason why he writes for the site. Guys, now let's get into as far as the first X-Men when it came out in 2000. Bryan Singer was announced, and at the time, he had done Usual Suspects, which is a fantastic movie, and they were like, okay, well, let's see what he's gonna do with the X-Men. And when the X-Men came out in 2000, it was a great movie. It's really, there's some corny campiness to it, but for the most part, it's a really good film.
I really love that movie because that was really kind of the first of the modern comic book movies, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was when you first saw that Marvel logo at the beginning of a movie, and it really, because special effects had gotten to the point where you can pull off pretty much anything you wanted to, anything you can imagine, you can do it on screen, and you couldn't do that in the 70s, 80s, 90s as well. So X-Men really kind of kicked off this comic book craze that we're still living into, and I really liked the X-Men movie because I love the introduction of characters onto the big screen. The scene where Wolverine is fighting in Canada, wherever the hell he is,
Canada.
And he's just down in beers. It's just you so believe that Hugh Jackman is Wolverine right there, and that just really gets you into the movie.
Yeah, and it really did start its own genre then. Now we have the superhero genre. We have like fantasy, we have comedy, horror. Now we have the superhero genre, which I love, and that's what X-Men did, and I loved it too. I flipped out when I saw that movie. Everybody, like Ella said, the introduction of the characters, the best one by far was Wolverine, sitting there in the bar, and he takes out his claws and knocks that guy's shotgun in half.
Yeah.
Everyone thought, and of course, when because I was a diehard Wolverine fan when I was a kid, so I didn't know who the hell Hugh Jackman was. This guy's 6'1". He doesn't look like Wolverine, and I was like, by the first frame, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Wolverine.
He's 6'1", but with that hair, he's like 6'5".
That's
it's
right.
Like a flex
and the
situation.
HGH mixed in.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But you get over the fact that he's too tall and everything because he really kind of embodied what Wolverine was about, and then his relationship with Rogue, which I thought was fine, and they set everything up. There was a couple of corny things that they did. And I actually watched the movie the other day.
It sounds like there's something specifically that bothers you about the first
X-Men. Well, there was one thing. There's a scene.
He's skirting the issue.
Yeah, there's a scene that happens, and this is the thing that it makes me turn my head every time I see it. It's like, do you guys remember the movie where the Senator Magneto basically mutates him? And he sets him up in the machine, and he brings the Senator in, and he's about to use that big machine on him and turn his body into mush. The Senator's sitting in the chair, and he looks over and he sees Toad, who's Ray Park, of course. Yeah. And Toad does this thing with his tongue and eats his frog, and the Senator looks and goes, yuck, and does this stupid face.
And
you wouldn't say yuck, stupid. You'd be like, holy shit.
You might. Have you ever seen old people repulse? I repulse a lot of old people, and I've gotten a lot of yucks.
But he's not sitting on his balcony with a glass of iced tea with his cat. He's in a dungeon somewhere. Yeah, but that's the difference between this. When we'll get to X-Men First Class, there's no yucks in X-Men First Class. There's none of that.
There's none of that, but there's some cheesy moments in X-Men First.
You're wrong. We'll get to that.
Oh, I'm incorrect?
You're wrong.
I think there has to be like 3 to 4 per movie just for the hacky guy, the hacky laugh that's due.
It is a comic book movie.
It is a comic book movie, yeah. But the first X-Men really it set up the franchise very, very well.
Yeah.
And I like that they had recognizable faces. I'm not a celebrity whore by any means, but when you hear that like Patrick Stewart, somebody everybody knows is going to be Professor X, and Ian McKellen, this great actor, is going to be Magneto.
Well, the flip side of that, though, with the celebrity, I agree with you. With the flip side was Halle Berry. She was the only one that you could kind of get rid of.
She wasn't bad to look at, my friend.
But we're not. Get a magazine.
You didn't like her as Storm? I thought she was a good Storm.
I want to look at Halle Berry watch Swordfish.
I thought she was great as Storm.
You thought she was great as Storm?
Yeah, I like her.
Oh my God! Let's see. Here we go, guys. So again, if you're listening to this and you're commenting on the YouTube page, whose side are you on here again? We've been doing this lately on YouTube. Team Chimp or Team?
Yeah, why do you always have to divide?
But you know what?
Because it works. They like to do it.
In Halle Berry's defense, I don't think that her character was actually given a lot to do. So
the first X-Men was Wolverine and Rogue meeting each other, and you find out Patrick Stewart versus Ian McKellen, and you have Cyclops trying to be a leader, but he's just not.
Yeah, and it was also hard because I actually went back and read some reviews on X-Men. I was so excited about First Class, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, there's so many people just being introduced at once," and so I get that. But as the fan of the comics, I saw what they were doing, and I just bought it because I loved it. And Storm she didn't have a lot to do.
She got all the Orson Welles type dialogue in that one. What was it? The you know what happens with two toads when it gets struck by lightning? The same thing as everyone else. Brilliant.
That was a good line.
Yeah, that line's in it. Exactly. And it was tougher for her to get out than it was for me just now.
Well, the X-Men, movies really are about Wolverine. If you think about it, because that was his story, and
right. And I think that's the thing, though. But that's why I think this one, the new one, is so different, is because I think they got. Again, 2 is my favorite one, and we'll talk about that in a second. 2 was my favorite one, but they got really caught up in Wolverine because he was the most popular, and they just gave him everything. It's like, once you have that, again, using your stuff, the star player, you just give him the ball and you forget about the rest of the team.
Right. Yeah, they really have if he's Kevin Durant, then Cyclops was always like the Russell Westbrook, the point guard who's trying to take over and be a leader, but it's like, dude, you ain't the best player on the team.
Right.
One eye. Get over it.
Right. And going into the great things, there was a lot of good stuff about the first X-Men. What I really liked about it, watching it too, it wasn't that long. It was only about an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is a good setup because they wanted to see how it went. They set up the powers really cool. The dynamic between the X-Men and then Magneto, and that was a good thing between Magneto and Xavier. You got at some point that these two dudes were friends. Yeah. But at this point in X-Men 1, Magneto is off his rocker.
Oh yeah, he's gone totally to the dark side. Right. There's no coming back for him now. He's like, look, I can move metal. I hate humans. I'm using this to my advantage. Yeah, right. And it did set up something for what I like about the first X-Men too is that it sets up a lot of cool kind of mysteries, and it kind of lets you, if you're a fan of the comics, their origin story. Right. But it kind of gave you a little bit of mystery. I think they kind of played that out a little bit too far. Like, we still don't know everything about Wolverine, and there's been like 9 damn movies about him. So that's a little annoying. But the first one, it gets you more interested, and it really sets up great for a sequel, which was a lot of people think is even better than the first one.
Right. Oh yeah, I agree. If we're going into X2, man, that just blew me away. I have never seen that for a long time. That was my favorite superhero movie of all time.
I'm with you. X-Men 2 is probably, people would ask me, I could go back and forth with Superman 2, but I understand the arguments against it. It's just, it was a childhood thing, but I love Superman 2 and all that. But But as far as a totally great, just put together, well-made film, X-Men 2 was definitely my favorite movie up until a couple days ago. And it was dark. It went to place, and the thing I loved about Wolverine in the comics, and they didn't really do a lot of in the first one that they did in the second one, was that scene in the kitchen. When the cops
I was just going to say that.
The scene, and he just wrecks these people with no regard at all and just takes them out. And that Wolverine didn't have morals. Wolverine, with the exception of like his fellow X-Men too, but if you came, he'd kill you. He wouldn't like say, oh, maybe, no, you're dead. I'm going to stick my...
So you're saying we should not have him on the podcast?
Well, now probably. Well, I don't know. It depends. We'll let Reilly talk to him.
I can take that.
You're our mutant whisperer, Reilly.
Yeah, well, I self-heal, so he can try all he wants.
Yeah. But I also like that they didn't just worry about Magneto. They did, Stryker. They brought in Brian Cox, who could be a bad guy, in a 7-Eleven commercial, and it's like,
oh yeah, he's great. And,
are they making 7-Eleven commercials?
If Brian Cox wants to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Brian Cox is in. If he gets to be a bad guy, like a creepy, like kind of government agency bad guy, he's one of the best. He was great like that, and he was in the Bourne movies.
How much are these nachos?
I'll take a hot dog.
Yeah, exactly.
The taquitos on sale.
Yeah, when you remember, anytime you go into 7-Eleven, you see that you think it's a bathroom, but it really just says employees only. That's Brian Cox's office.
Yeah,
that's where
you go inside. There's like 75 computers and like a bunch of guns.
Yeah, he's back there plotting taking over the world.
Yeah, he's got a big X through Matt Damon's forehead. So yeah, I mean that was really cool to kind of get the, they left off. It really felt like, again, when you're watching like an HBO show or something too, and you're like, oh, I can't wait until next week's episode, and they carry it too right from the end of 1 when he zips off in the motorcycle, and it's just that was the Wolverine movie. I mean, it was. They call X-Men Origins. I mean, Wolverine Origins, whatever the hell it was.
Oh, good.
They call that movie Wolverine.
No,
X-Men 2 was Wolverine.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate what you said about the whole Wolverine just wolving out, or what do they call it? He's like, berserker. There's like some comic phrase.
Rolly berserker.
Yeah, when he
snort.
Yeah, when he
Mallrats.
threw that guy against the wall with the claws, threw the guy through the wall, that was the moment that I went, this is the X-Men movie I wanted to see. This is unbelievable. Yep.
And then
I flipped.
It just the tone was right, and that's why Bryan Singer really. It was like what Nolan had on Batman. Yeah. Singer had on the X-Men. Like I personally think that Nolan is a lot better, but I mean as far as really knowing your material, and Singer knew it. It's another story when it comes to Superman, but that's not this podcast.
Yeah, no, this is not a Superman podcast.
Yeah.
I know Superman 2 is a good movie.
Yeah.
This is an X-Men podcast. And X-Men, after X2, you're like, where can we go from here?
Right.
We can only go up, right? We can only keep making great movies. And then I saw X3, The Last Stand, right? I saw that really on a Sunday morning, really like super hungover. Like I was wearing sunglasses in the movie theater. I was so hungover, but I didn't hate it.
That probably helped your viewing experience.
It may have aided my viewing enjoyment because I didn't hate the movie, but again, I just like seeing these characters. So
I
hated it because it absolutely destroyed not only the movies, but as a comic book fan, what the hell are you doing killing Cyclops within the first 5 minutes of the movie?
Well,
that is everything. The most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things there that they did that was really ridiculous. And the reason that happened, again, like we had just talked about how it was Bryan Singer's franchise. Bryan Singer was the one who modeled this thing, and then he was attached to do X-Men 3 and then said, no, I'm done. Not doing
Superman.
Anymore. So then they said, right, he's going to go and do Superman. Then they said, okay, well, let's get this guy, Matthew Vaughn.
Right.
Kind of up-and-coming guy, just did Layer Cake. Let's get him to do it. And then the Matthew Vaughn was attached to do it. Like, okay, this could be interesting. And then Matthew Vaughn dropped out.
Why did Matthew Vaughn drop out, though?
Creative differences.
Which means he hated the script.
Yeah,
and
which
Matthew
means
Vaughn is, of course, the director of X-Men
First Class.
First Class.
Right. Yeah, so I would have loved to have been, fly on the wall and seen how they got him back.
Well, that doesn't make sense. Flies don't have ears.
Well, isn't that how they're saying it? Fine. I would love to be in a suit in the room.
Better.
Yeah, have some faith in yourself.
All right,
you can be
I'll be the assistant to the assistant of the assistant of the head of the studio, whatever.
Good.
But yeah, I wonder too, like why he left and what his version of X3 would have been.
Well, it looked like he made the smart move, obviously. So because he it's not for the fans' choices, but for him and for Singer, they both they left, and then they're like, well, who can we get? Hey, what about the guy that did Rush Hour? That guy has since been fired. That suggested that one because they got him. They got Brett Ratner, of course, and Brett Ratner just made this thing into I'm gonna have so much fun with the X-Men. And the one thing that shows you what he did with this movie, there was a stupid viral video. I shouldn't say stupid because the video itself was funny. It was a viral video going around on the internet about the Juggernaut. And it was and he would bust through the wall, and he was like, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!" And everyone was laughing about it. So I'm sure Brett Ratner was laughing his balls off and saw it, and then said, "We should put that in the movie. We should definitely get that Coke and that chick over here. Let's see what she thinks."
Yeah.
And then and then they're like, okay, and they put that in there. And it was just so silly. And you are a Magneto fan, yes? I mean, you're
Magneto?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know him pretty well. Let me ask you a question.
He's a great villain.
So X-Men 3, right?
Right.
What's Magneto's powers?
Well, he can move metal.
Then what the hell is his hideout doing in the woods?
That's a good point.
It's a good question. There's not generally, other than like rusty nails, there's not a lot of stuff you'll find in the woods.
No,
it's metal.
Well,
maybe
old
some
cars
coins.
that Sopranos blew up there that they found. It's like what?
Yeah,
it's like it's
Civil
just there's
War
no
musket
thought.
balls.
Maybe Magneto's like, hey, everybody knows I can move metal now. I'm gonna hang out with wood.
Yeah.
So to kind of throw him off the scent.
Well, that was a year, everybody was going green, so he was,
Maybe he just wanted to feel like a normal person, guys.
Yeah, right.
That?
He had a Walden moment. It was like
call
Thoreau.
there on the normal person thing, because that was the stupidest part of X-Men 3 was that, especially after you see X-Men First Class, you see the relationship between Magneto and what's her
Charles
face?
Xavier.
No, and Mystique. You
Mystique.
see how and even in 1 and in 2, And then in 3, he's just like, oh, I don't really care about you anymore. Just with a wave of the fist. It's like, no, there was no development. There was no character attachment. There was nothing. That movie sucked a big fat pile of balls.
And I'll support this theory that maybe it was necessary to have this simply because you can watch and see how important a director is to a movie. You can't just take a franchise and the fans are going to line up opening weekend to see anything with X in it. That's great.
Oh yeah, because
I'll go see Malcolm X thinking Wolverine's going to make a cameo. I'll see anything with X in it. But when you put a director that doesn't know what he's doing or wants to take it a different way, I think hopefully now that we've gone far enough down this road, like we said, X-Men kicked all this off over a decade ago. So there's going to be some bumps on the way.
Right.
And now maybe we finally realize with the Batman franchise and with this reboot with Matthew Vaughn that, okay, we really have a small stable of directors that can pull these movies off.
Absolutely, and I think that was the thing. It was the fact that like you started with after X-Men 3 came out, and because there's a reason that X4 with Brett Ratner didn't come out. Also, because it's like you look at it, you're like, oh wait a minute, this is very Joel Schumacher-esque.
Yeah,
there's some. There's no shots of like people's asses and stuff, but it's close.
Well, and he kills everybody off.
Yeah,
so
he really just. Like, where are you going to go after X3? After first of all, ridiculous again that Rogue decides to change. Take the mutant serum or whatever, and now she's normal. That's bullshit. That's a cop out. No longer.
As much as I don't like this movie, watching Riley get worked up.
I get so worked up because not only
punched a hole in the wall.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I know. Well, don't worry. I heal. All right, I'm a mutant.
Nice.
So, like, Professor X is dead. He blows up thanks to Jean Grey. Then we have Cyclops dead in the first 5 minutes. And who else dies? I can't remember. But then
spoiler alert.
By the way.
Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen X3,
it doesn't matter. Trust me, if you haven't seen X3, go to your computer, write for about 20 minutes, and you just wrote a better version of it.
Yeah. But to have Rogue take the serum and then the movie ends with that, it's just kind of like great. So you killed off your most important X-Men leader, and another very popular fan favorite, Rogue, is no longer Rogue. She's a normal girl. Way to go, Ratner.
Right. Yeah. So where do you go from X3 then? Because everybody's dead, and there's nowhere to take the franchise really forward after something like that. So what do? You tell an origin story.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Our favorite character, as Christian and I both mentioned on our X-Men First Class review, that our favorite character from the comic books growing up is Wolverine.
Absolutely.
Let's tell the origin story of Wolverine. That can't miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it missed. It missed hard.
And
that was worse than X3.
Yeah, but I've been searching this, and before we jump into Wolverine, I know just killed your transition. It was a brilliant one at that.
Oh, thanks.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
That's horrendous. It's not.
Juggernaut was one of my favorite villains from the comic books. I really like Juggernaut. He had like a Mike Allstott kind of vibe about him. And
hold on, if we're still on X3, there's an important event in the X-Men history of comic books that is the most defining moment for all of X-Men, and that is the Dark Phoenix saga.
Right. Oh, that was ruined.
Now, that is one of the best runs in comic history because you actually get a lot of character depth in a comic book with Jean Grey that goes over basically to the dark side and becomes the all-powerful being of the Phoenix, right? And what do they do in X3? They supposedly, so Singer sets it up at the end of X2, and all the fans of the comics and now the movies are like, oh my God, it's going to be this trilogy, and it's going to blah, 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 blah. And no. What do we get? Jean Grey again dies at the end, thanks to Wolverine, who has some kind of relationship there. So what do? They get rid of Scott Summers, the leader of the X-Men, at the very first 5 minutes so we can get to this bullshit relationship. And then the Dark Phoenix saga is just glossed over. She's gone, and the movie. I mean, it just is ridiculous.
So you like the movie?
Yeah. I loved the movie.
What's not ridiculous, Mark, myself, and Cheese, while Riley was going on that rant, we're just in awe of him.
Yeah, the full power of Reilly's X-Men.
I saw everybody's eyes.
He melted
gloss
our faces.
It's
He's
kind
this
of
good with X-Men. I shudder to think how long our Avengers podcast is going to go.
We'd be here for 3 weeks.
Next year, we're going to get to do an Avengers podcast.
That's right.
Can I?
Maybe we'll see. Let's see how the fans like you on this one. Okay. All right. So
you can
now
follow
we're
me at Twitter at Reilly Around.
This guy's plugging himself. He knows we're going to kick him out soon, so he's plugging himself soon.
I'm plugging myself now.
Now, Ellis, of course, mentioned Wolverine: The Origins too. Ellis and I went and saw this movie. I think 2 years ago. You can find the review on our Schmoes Know page, and we were very excited to see this movie. We're like, okay, maybe they're going to take it to a good place, because Gavin Hood directed this film, and Gavin Hood, a lot of people didn't know who he was. He did this small film called Satsi, which was a great film. Not a lot of people saw it, but it was a really, really good film. But the problem was that he didn't. Not a lot of people knew who he was, and the studio was able to grab him basically by the neck and say, "You do whatever we tell you to do." So if I wanted you to shoot this, shoot that, you do it. And so he takes the brunt of it. You know, it's like a manager does with the baseball team.
Yeah. And I can't get any further into Wolverine Origins without saying the story was whatever it was. We'll talk about how Gambit was underused. The worst thing about Wolverine Origins, the special effects of the claws, they looked animated. I was expecting a piano to get dropped on his head, or like an Acme safe would be the end of that movie. It was so awful. I mean,
it's like Roger Rabbit.
It's like, just let this guy find the Roadrunner and let's end this movie, because it looks so bad.
It's so funny though when you say that too, because I remember when we talked about that originally when we saw the review, and I was like, and it was on HBO the other night, Wolverine. And that scene came on, and I'm like, well, I wonder if Ellis was exaggerating like he normally does. And let me see. And then no exaggeration. It was 100%. Like, I think you underplayed it, honestly, because like it's so bad.
The villain in that movie should have been the judge from Roger Rabbit with dip.
Yeah. It's seriously. It is horrendous. It would have made more sense if Christopher Lloyd would have come in. They just had like a full-fledged battle. I agree.
Well, and my question is too, with Wolverine Origins, you get Sabretooth, right, who is a big villain in the X-verse, and now they're brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they fight throughout the whole movie, and then of course, the great ending where Wolverine loses his memory and whatnot to set up the X-Men, but Sabretooth didn't lose his memory. Right. So then why in X-Men doesn't one of them realize, hey, you're my brother? Instead, they have like two fights that don't mean
and
really anything.
And they made Sabretooth too smart in the new one. See, in the
Sabretooth was in the comic books and in the first movie, he was kind of a savage kind of dude. Yeah. He was smart enough to get around and follow Magneto, but he
was truly Sabretooth from the comics.
Yeah, this Sabretooth, Liev Schreiber played him in X-Men Origins, and he's like with the Montana chapter of Mensa. I mean, he's way too smart.
Way too smart.
If the name of your character is extinct as an actual animal, then you're not as smart.
There you go.
Something wrong along the way.
Well, that was the thing, though, too, is the fact with Sabretooth, like, again, that was my favorite part of the comic book back in the day, was the battles that those two had. And they did that a lot in X-Men 1. Sabretooth, to me, wasn't as stupid as he was in X1, but that's fine. But he was, again, way too smart in Wolverine. And the whole storyline of them in the beginning and the Civil War, all that goffish. And then they go, and then there's more. Let's talk about Deadpool. You ruined Deadpool in that too. I mean, Ryan Reynolds.
I don't think you ruined Deadpool, because Deadpool's just underused. That's right.
Ruined him. He's a smart talking.
In the end of the movie, it really.
And that's what
bad movie.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know why it is like the Studio Fox. What are they not reading these comic books?
He said Fox. He said Studio Fox.
Studio Fox. The Fox Studio.
It's FACHS.
Yes, yeah.
You know what? I'm leaving. No. Deadpool, you said it. He talks. He's this wisecracking, great guy. He actually breaks the fourth wall in the comics and talks to the audience, and he's great.
And he's great in that first scene, in the first 10 minutes of Wolverine. It's
you're
great.
Like, oh, great. So then the end, his mouth is covered up. What
one thing that we like.
The one thing that makes Deadpool, his mouth is covered up. Who the hell wrote this thing?
Well, it was just it was the studio at the time, and knowing some sources that were around the production of that. From what I heard, whoever was running the,
you got some insider info for
I did hit some insider info on this. Apparently, at Fox, the head guy at Fox was crushing all the really cool creative stuff. Yeah. I don't know if that same guy is there or not. But he basically had to make a turnaround because at some point you read of all this stuff because everyone, for the consensus, there are some people who like may defend X-Men 3 or may defend Wolverine, but for the most part, I would say it's how we're feeling today.
Yeah.
And so someone said, well, you know what? Let's do this different.
Yeah.
And guess what? They did.
Yeah, they put depth into it with X-Men First Class. You could just enjoy an X-Men movie again. Like Wolverine and X3 were like a 7-layer dip, you know, where the first layer is like nacho cheese. You're like, oh, this is only gonna get better, and then you go in and then it's just a bunch of moldy guacamole, and you're like, oh, really? That's what's under this crap?
Maybe that's part of the problem. It's like, you know, they wanted to make it, you know, different. Like, as you know, they were like, we're just going to go for the long shot, and either it's going to be the best one out of all three, or you know,
and it was the worst. And I got to tell you, anytime you compare Mexican food to a movie, it's probably not going to go well.
Wolverine was worse, or X-Men 3 was the worst?
They're both just
I agree.
not good.
I mean,
I think Wolverine's worse than X3.
I don't know, but
I think X3 is probably worse.
It's a great debate, and I don't think anybody comes out the winner or loser on it.
I think Fantastic Four sucks.
Yeah. Now here's the good thing is, like I said, I think that we can pretty much say that just like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, those two don't really exist.
Nah,
they don't really exist.
No.
Like Rocky V.
Yeah,
and
Batman never had nipples on his costume. Let's get that straight.
That's right.
That never happened.
So, and Wolverine never had Roger Rabbit claws.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
now we have this week. We
Yes.
have a new X-Men movie coming out. We've been waiting a while, but when you hear about a new X-Men movie coming out, it's not that excitement you had after X2. You're like, what is this gonna be?
Exactly, and that was the thing, though. Too. The setup. First of all, we wanted to give everybody a setup right now. I know that this is going to come out probably either today or tomorrow. I want to give you a spoiler alert.
Yeah,
now, if you have not seen X-Men First Class, I would pause this, go see the movie, come back and listen, because we're going to be talking about parts of the movie that will be spoiled for you.
This podcast isn't live?
No, it is not.
This podcast is live in the sense that Kevin Bacon started the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That's right. All right. Now, that being said...
Whoa, that's a big one.
Now, that being
big spoiler.
The great thing that happened... Kevin, what's his name? Kevin Spacey. No, my dog's barking. Yeah. No, Brian Singer wrote the story for this one.
Yeah.
And he wrote the story, and then guess who he went and he got? He got
Brett Ratner.
No, he did not get Brett Ratner. He shot Brett Ratner. And then Matthew Vaughn actually came on to direct this one. And the reason why he had a little more clout is because of Kick-Ass. And boy, did he do a great job with Kick-Ass. And they said, okay, this guy gets the comic genre. He's going to make it a little dark. Let's do it. They joined up together. And when I saw the trailer for this thing, I didn't even know it was coming out. Like when it first came out, 3-4 months ago, I was like, they're making another X-Men movie?
Yeah, we had that conversation in our summer movie preview when we both came to the conclusion that we are most excited about X-Men. As far as all the comic book movies that are coming out, we're most excited about X-Men First Class. But after that taping, I kind of went home and I saw the commercials for it the last couple of weeks, and I was just, I'm not really excited to see this movie. And then I see the movie, and it's like, yeah, that's a really well done
that was
movie.
The thing. I started to get psyched for it as the trailers kept going because I'm like, oh, this tone could be interesting. And the two actors that they got,
James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender.
Two, when you saw the two, and I like all the stuff that they've done in the past, and even Wanted. McAvoy was good.
Yeah, he was really good in that. He's really good in Atonement, which is a movie I'm a big
favorite.
fan of.
I love Atonement.
Oh yeah,
it's a great movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Cheeser, you want to go out and have a beer and let these guys sip some mimosas?
Sure.
Right.
Get the mitt, the baseball, throw it around.
Now let's get into it. All right, so X-Men. Now, of course, Cheeser has a busted up eye because he plays basketball, and the little chimp actually plays basketball with him, and that's why he missed our screening, and that's why our review was late.
We did get a win, and we were up 30-0 at
31.
one point.
There's a picture. We're up 31-0 with 7 minutes left. Just throwing that out. That's the all-time.
Christian, this will make you feel better. Brett Ratner was on the other team. How about that?
Yes, he was.
So
along with some 5-year-olds.
I keep his Phantom.
Oh, good. Okay, that works. But the benefit to this came to Mark Reilly, who was able to.
Mark Reilly got Ellis's ticket,
yes.
and you guys saw it on
awesome.
Tuesday. And so the first thing after the game is I call Harloff. I see how the movie was, and the guy sounded like a 10-year-old riding the spaceship outside Walmart for the first time.
It was. Yeah. Because the thing is, too, Ellis and I see so many movies, and we get disappointed so much. So when I saw this movie, I'm sitting down and
Don't say it like that. Like our life's just one big disappointment after another.
But after seeing
that was directed at you too. It's a disappointment.
Yeah. I'm like, well,
well,
I'll sit one seat away from you. I don't know what.
But after seeing like Sanctum and and again, sorry, Phil. I know there's a lot of lovers of The Hangover 2, but after watching that,
Jesus,
gross mess. It's just like I'm like, and I mean, come on, X-Men, deliver. And the second it starts, I'm like, okay. And I turned to Reilly and I'm like, this is the movie I want to see.
Yeah. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody said it earlier. It's like kind of the suits at Fox kind of took a step back and said, okay, I trust these guys. They got Bryan Singer back, he was the one that created this. So he came on as executive producer, had the story, and then you have Matthew Vaughn come in. He writes the script. The two other writers from Thor actually wrote this as well. So they have two big superhero movies in theaters, and they just let them kind of go, and it really delivered. It was like the best of the X-Men, in my opinion.
It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time.
Yeah, I know it's one of mine too.
And I say superhero, that does not include The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight is not a superhero. He doesn't have.
He's a dude in a bat suit.
Right.
What's the?
He doesn't have superpowers. I associate superhero. He's a hero.
He's
not a hero.
That's kind of a cop out, man.
He's not a superhero.
It's a comic book movie.
But I didn't say comic book movie. I said superhero.
Superhero movie. I don't know.
Right,
Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. But taking it out as far as superheroes, people with powers will say X-Men X-Men First Class is my favorite superhero movie.
Okay. People with powers, unless that power would be the Force.
Yeah, and that is a great point, because there were so many.
That's why I'm here, kids.
There were so many parallels to Star Wars in this movie.
Yeah, and we actually talked about that as we left, and it's like that. The relationship between Magneto and Professor X is what the Obi-Wan and Anakin relationship should have been in the prequels. I mean, it was really, really interesting and how complex it was, and how much we got into their characters. And it was
even more so than I initially realized before I saw this movie, because Obi-Wan was obviously the trainer of Anakin Skywalker. Anakin was the apprentice to Obi-Wan.
Right.
And with this relationship, you think, oh, well, no, Magneto and Professor X were peers at one point.
Right.
But you see through this movie that Professor X really was the guy that brought Eric into the fold and kind of helped him develop his powers. So there was an apprentice teacher kind of relationship there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean the fact that what's Charles, he can go into his mind and pull out a memory that helps harness Magneto's power. And when you pull out of that memory and like Magneto is so touched, he almost has a tear in his eye. I mean, that's like, you're like, whoa.
But you're emotionally attached to these characters is the thing. The whole time, like, they set up Magneto from the very beginning in the concentration camp. He watches his mother die in front of him. He's going, that scene, there's a scene in the movie where he's going after Kevin Bacon, and he's in the water trying to catch this sub. The guy is ready to kill himself to get this thing. He's like, it's like, screw it, I'm there. And he's just stretching himself out, and Xavier comes in, talks to him in his mind, gets him out of there. But you see that rage that Anakin just kind of forced and was... Hold on. That was awful. Yeah, I mean, the guy, that's the most... You have to like but that's the reason I.
If you couldn't hear that, they play it at the end when Darth Vader screams no at the end.
Yeah, the reason I just played that was because when he screams no, like that's his change. That's his like a big change from the. Now he's in the costume and now he's the real evil. That's all he is. Not Magneto. When you see this guy change, you see it in his eyes. You see the frustration. Like there's a scene at the end of Revenge of the Sith when Christensen chokes out Natalie Portman, and it looks like something in theater class. Where in this, Magneto is ready to choke out Rose Byrne, and you're like, she's going to die.
Yeah. And I will give you the emotional attachment to Eric, who became Magneto, and Charles Xavier. And I'm not coming down this movie because I really like the movie, but I did not feel any emotional attachment to any of the other mutants on the good team. Like you had, they bored the crap out of me, to be honest with you. Beast doesn't come in the movie. And again, we are going to spoil some of this.
Yeah.
Beast doesn't come into the movie until the last 10 minutes. And
But that's who he turns into. He's in the movie, the whole movie.
I didn't really feel that much of a connection. He was a good character, and Mystique was a good character. She didn't wow me.
See, I love
and the other
Jennifer
kids, the redhead kid with Banshee, didn't really care about him or Havoc or any of those others.
See, I thought they did it very nicely because it's like the reason why we didn't get a lot of maybe backstory or exposition on the X characters is because what I loved about this movie is it starts with mutants figuring out there's other mutants in the world. It's like, I mean, like Charles wakes up to, seeing his mother in the kitchen, realizes it's not her. It turns out to be Mystique, and he's like, and he's not scared of this little girl that's all blue with red hair that shapeshifts in front of him. He's like, oh my God, there's another one. And slowly then Magneto, later on when we meet him, he realizes there's another one. And it's like slowly the audience is starting to meet the mutants. And that's kind of what I...
It's not rushed.
And I love that you discover that there's other mutants in the world. I just wish that they didn't pick the B team.
I like the B team. And I thought that... And one of the things, too, that you'll hear if you watch our reviews, you see that I am very tough on silly, nonsense Transformers humor in these movies. And there was in the Thor with the taser and all that crap that we can talk about for hours. That's not the type of humor that's in this movie. There's a scene when what Mark likes to call the B team is where I call, real mutants.
They're the bench warmers.
They're not bench warmers.
It's like Judd Bushler. Did he win a championship?
You're
but
becoming one of these people that the mutants talk about.
That's
okay?
fine. The mutants can talk about
bench warmers. They may be the bench warmers now, but I mean they're starting to get trained
exactly.
by
That's exactly
Professor
right.
X.
Yeah, what do you want them to do? Come in and be like all jacked up and ready to go? Like it's like they're getting trained. It's like they don't know what the hell they're doing.
There's only one LeBron. Me about the movie. That was the line when you talk about bad lines. That line killed me in the movie. Is when they said, "I can't believe we've been training all week." They go through this huge montage and then they train for a week and they're ready to go stop the Cuban Missile Crisis. That line, the way that they said "week," it was like it was hysterical.
You set that up well enough to where I would agree with you, but I don't remember it, so I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
You've seen it twice. Didn't you? You didn't see it last night?
No, long story. Missed it. But anyway, the movie itself is really it's great. And one of the things I do want to talk about is Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. I disagree with Ellis completely. I thought she was great as Mystique, and I thought that
she wasn't bad. I
thought she was great, and I thought she was she just had a really good. You felt for Mystique, and you understood why she was going, kind of like Magneto, why she was going down the path she was going down, and kind of she was back and forth of like she had a different type of mutation that was harder for her to deal with, and I felt that Jennifer Lawrence embodied it, and she was tough. And what it really made me think of, I'm a diehard Hunger Games fan. I can't wait for these books to be turned into movies, and I was already pro Lawrence for Katniss. Now I am over the moon, my friends.
Well, I love that Jennifer Lawrence was able to bring, some character to Mystique from the first movies. She's just kind of like...
She's a really hot chick.
She's just a hot chick, walking
Rebecca
around.
Romaine.
Yeah, she doesn't talk much. She's kind of the silent, sidekick villain to Magneto. Right. And here, it's great because it enlightens you to why she's with Magneto. You see it building in this movie with Magneto, and Magneto's brilliant. I mean, I love what you said in the movie, Christian. He looks at me and goes, I can watch an entire movie just on this guy. And I would say Michael Fassbender as Magneto, not Ian McKellen.
No,
Magneto.
Michael Fassbender, because he just brought, this movie proved that, McAvoy is great in the movie. No doubt.
McAvoy is awesome.
Great. Fassbender, though, is like an instant superstar out of this movie. It is his movie.
It's always more fun, I think, though, to play the guy that's going to have that there's going to be a turn somewhere, because Professor X is just like a good dude the whole time.
Right.
Does he occasionally bang a skank and maybe get herpes? Yeah, but that's like the worst thing that happens.
Well, that's what I love. That's what I thought was genius with Professor X, was that he was just a swinging dick for like the first 15 minutes. Yeah. He's like picking up chicks with his powers, and I'm like, my God, I never would have. I didn't believe.
But that proves how the writing was so good, though, too. Because there was a scene when Rose Byrne comes in, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's sit down." And he starts hitting her, and that he's hitting on her for a little bit, and then she's like, "No, I'm really here because of this." And they could be like, "Oh, he's just gonna go, no, I don't believe it." And it's gonna turn this whole thing. But then he's like, "Okay, I get it. Let's go." You know, it wasn't that whole like normally they'll just you have to convince him and then he's gonna do this and then he's gonna go around. But it was just let's do this. And the one thing that I will say in regards to your B team thing. The B team, whatever, they all used their powers together collectively as a team at the end, like during the big monsters, like Mystique's using her thing to trick people out, and Fish Face is running around doing his screams to save people, and Havoc's. I mean, they all used it together like a championship team.
Yeah, they all came together. There was a bunch of role players. It was like the Detroit Pistons, where there's no real star, but they all played as a team. But I just didn't. That last battle sequence just didn't get me the way that it got you guys. And again, I make it sound like I didn't like the movie, but I really enjoyed the movie. I just didn't think by any means whatsoever it was a perfect 5 out of 5. I would still probably say X2 or the original one is my favorite out of the trilogy, simply because look, you're paying $18. I paid $18 for an IMAX ticket.
Xavier got in your head and made you pay for that one.
Yeah, really, ridiculous. Magneto got in my head. And it was, I like seeing my favorite superheroes. And so when it's an X-Men movie and you get to see Charles Xavier and Magneto, that's great. And, if you replace Wolverine and Cyclops and Storm and Rogue with the kid that has gills and a kid that can yell and fly, I'm like, no thanks.
But see, you know what? You can't bring in the favorites because they've already made the movies.
Obviously, you can't bring in the favorites.
And that's what I really appreciate about this movie because if you bring in Scott Summers as Cyclops and you bring in Jean Grey and you bring in Wolverine, then it's a reboot.
But that was you didn't need all you needed for that was as long as Xavier and Magneto were as strong as they were. You don't need everyone else to be so great and amazing. I felt Jennifer Lawrence was enough as that secondary storyline with Beast. For Havoc had the little things. Too much of it. It's again like Bridesmaids, and I bring Bridesmaids into this because one of the great things Mark Ellis and I talked about with Bridesmaids was that the stories for the secondary characters, the arcs never really had to come to a complete end. They were there, they served their purpose, they did what they had to do, and I felt that was the same thing with
all those Bridesmaids chicks really made me laugh hard. And these other mutants just didn't move me the way. But I mean, again, I acknowledge that you can't have Wolverine in this movie, and you can't have Cyclops in this movie. I know that. But when you say what's your favorite X-Men movie of all time, I like watching Wolverine and Cyclops go at it. So
I mean that's.
Well, I appreciate that opinion.
Speaking of Wolverine, of course, it's on the internet now, so nobody else. And words got around. There's a great cameo by Hugh Jackman in this movie.
Yeah, that's the good and the bad of that movie is that was probably my favorite part of the whole movie. Nothing against the rest of the movie, but that cameo was exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, it was the best. It was the best use of fuck, I think, in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, because it's just
that's getting through the MPAA. They're like, we're not allowed to do this, but that's awesome. So
you can do one.
You're allowed one.
And that was the one.
Yeah.
And
was it a quick pop in or was it?
Yeah, they're recruiting all these X-Men, and then because Wolverine, you don't know how he's like 200 years old. You don't know how old he is, so he's sitting at the bar. And they walk in. They recruited everybody, and they walk in to get him. And he's like, "Hey, I'm Xavier. I'm Magneto. Go fuck yourselves." And that's it. That's it.
And they just kind of like, "Oh, okay," and they walk off.
They're
like, "Oh, we're not getting anywhere with this guy."
Yeah. So and then one of the things I did say to Reilly when we were walking out, I said, "There better be a sequel to this movie."
Yeah.
I haven't seen numbers. I'm not the numbers guy. I really hope this movie does well.
Well, I got a number here. It came in. It was like 23 million
for what?
For Friday.
For Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, Thursday midnight it did some pretty good numbers too. So hopefully we do.
So like 40 probably for the week.
For the weekend. No, it'll do
upwards of 60. Right?
Yeah, probably anywhere from 60.
If it does anywhere near Thor.
Great.
Then I think that's a win because again the franchise has been punched around a little bit with these last two movies.
So we started talking about that. I think when it was like what's gonna be this this X-Men movie gonna be?
See, it didn't do that great, which is unfortunate.
I think that's because people are a little bit scared to go.
It's also because Wolverine's not in it too. It's a big thing. It's like using a wrestling analogy too. When Hulk Hogan dropped out of the Federation, I'm sure their numbers went down. It's like so like on Friday, this is from boxofficemojo.com. On Friday, Wolverine's absence was felt as X-Men's first class attendance hit a franchise low in its debut. The Hangover 2 crashed after a wild opening, which I'm not surprised about.
Yeah, word of mouth is spreading
X-Men
on that.
squeaked by with a passable estimated 21 million on Friday, which it's not great, but what I'm hoping is that word of mouth. The problem is that Super 8 comes out next week, and I think Super 8's going to give it a nice little
I think Super 8's probably going to knock it off, number one, obviously. But I do believe that there are a lot of reviews out there that love X-Men First Class.
Oh, it's like
I mean,
92%.
Yeah, it's ridiculously reviewed right now because people are really enjoying it, and I am hoping word of mouth will spread. And like I said in my article, I'm going to go see it again so I can give it money for the box office because I believe it's deserving.
It's got 87% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Yeah, that's
it
huge.
Deserves every one of it. So yeah, guys, that's our X-Men podcast.
So if you liked it, go see it again. Let's turn this into like a grassroots. Like this is like
please
following Fish around for
the
summer. Except you don't have to drive to Arkansas to see your favorite jam band. Just go back to the movie theater and pay another $15 to see this because we want to see a sequel.
I know, but that's the thing though, is that it's the best. It's the best movie of the year so far. It is, and it's just like it's just a well-crafted film. I know that a lot of people are saving their money to go see Captain America or go see Green Lantern, and I don't know if those movies are going to be better.
This Captain America, I'm so excited about now.
Yeah,
but
me too.
This Green Lantern thing, I saw they had the trailer during the midnight show that I saw, and I get less excited about this Green Lantern thing.
I thought you were getting more excited
about Green Lantern.
Oh,
no, there's too much. Green's my favorite
CGI?
color, and there's too much green in it. It looks like Slimer from Ghostbusters just flew through everything on screen. It doesn't.
I can see that.
I'm worried about it.
All right, I understand.
I don't know what to think about Green Lantern.
But Captain America, man, I am on board.
All
Say,
right,
can you see? Give me a Budweiser.
All right, well, it's definitely the summer of Marvel, and go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, to comment on the whole Wolverine being missing from X-Men First Class, please go and see it for Magneto.
Yeah.
Seriously, he's the star.
new Wolverine.
He should be like what they should base this new franchise around because his powers, what he does in the bar in Argentina when he finds the Nazis, Jesus Christ, it was awesome.
Applause break in every theater that you see that in. I mean,
really? My God. It was
an applause break?
Oh, yeah. They went crazy for it. I saw it. It was a fun midnight show environment that I saw it in. Go see it. Even if you don't go see it for Magneto, just get your butt in the theater because by the time you're in there, you're going to know that this is Magneto's movie.
That's
yes,
right.
And
it is.
It's really a fun watch. If the mutants aren't the best mutants, if you're not going to retire these mutants' jerseys, it's okay. It's still a really fun movie.
Well, and that being said, from your two favorite mutants, the Schmoes, and our fellow mutants, Mark Reilly and Cheese, who still has not put that sound effect in and will be fired soon. But of course, please check out Mark Reilly on schmoesknow.com every Thursday, the Reilly Roundtable. Follow him at Twitter at Reilly Around. And you know where you can find us, guys. So join us next week because we'll be here doing nothing.